the 2023 Rugby World Cup. The final is going to take place on the 29th of October between New Zealand and South Africa. And before we get to that, let's get down to how this sport came to be and shot to popularity. Football will have to take some credit for this sport and the discovery of rugby itself. Now we have to go back to 1823. The name of the discipline comes from a school in England called the Rugby School. And the game was discovered by William Webb Ellis during a school football match. Ellis picked up the ball and charged towards the opponent's goal. He refused to conform to the norms of football, that is just kicking the ball. He picked up the ball in his hands instead and ran. Now this story has little evidence but is widely accepted, so much so that the Rugby World Cup now is named as the William Webb Ellis Trophy. However, folk football was played from the 14th and 15th centuries. There were no clear defined rules for teams. Most of them would be played amongst communities from different villages, and that continued right until the 19th century. That included two styles of playing, one where of course the game was played with your feet, the second where the ball would be picked up and carried. It was violent and brutal to the extent that they would result in deaths. Broken limbs, fractured legs were not uncommon. So although the game wasn't called rugby back then, it has a rich and an exciting history. So the rule of ball being picked up by the hand was being played long before even the Webb's anecdote came over. Over the years, of course, the discipline's popularity grew. Here's how the sport took shape over the last many years. The Rugby Football Union, or the RFU, was founded in 1871. This was the sport's main governing body. It preceded what is today known as World Rugby. The first international match was played between England and Scotland in the very same year, and Scotland was the winner of that inaugural match. The first ever World Cup was held years later. It was co-hosted by Australia and New Zealand were big winners. 8 years later, 1995, it was recognized as a professional sport, a big move for rugby. Now let's shift focus to New Zealand, the first World Cup winners, who are the finalists of the 2023 edition. They are three-time champions and will meet defending champions South Africa. The two sides over the years have turned out to be two of the most successful countries in rugby. The South African side is known as the Springboks. Meanwhile, New Zealand's team is called the All Blacks. Now, we all know of the iconic rivalries in sports. When it comes to rugby, it's down to these two giants, the All Blacks and the Springboks. Since 1921, they have set up multiple nail-biting clashes. Both the sides have produced legendary players, be it Jonah Lomu for New Zealand or Francois Pienaar for South Africa. They are some of the iconic figures. Now, just to establish how symbolic this face-off between New Zealand and South Africa in this 2023 final is, we need to talk about two editions. One, the 1995 Rugby World Cup was a historic moment for the Springboks. They were hosting the tournament and emerged victorious. Nelson Mandela wore the Springboks jersey, and that symbolized the country's unity after the apartheid regime. Contrastingly, the All Blacks won the 2011 World Cup, which ended a 24-year-long winless streak for them. Richie McCaw helmed New Zealand's victory against France. Their consistent success over the years have made them a messiah in rugby. For rugby fans, the 2023 World Cup final between the two teams seems like quite the fitting encounter. It's the dream of every cricketer, the ultimate glory. Few manage to keep their date with destiny, but for many, it's been heartbreaks and a cross to bear. The Holy Grail is here in India. I'm Rupha Ramani, and Firstpost brings you the ringside view. We bring you the Cup of Dreams, Cricket World Cup coverage like never before.